Peace. Welcome everybody to my 11-month and 8-day check-in with No Nicotine. And in today's video, I will be discussing why you can't quit nicotine, why someone or anyone, why you cannot quit nicotine, and just getting started off. I'm here carrying out my duties and responsibilities in correlation with doing it for the betterment of the world and changing the world, and doing the work that needs to be done in order to change the reality that we live in. I've been making these videos about nicotine and just documenting my journey in nicotine because I want the people out there that are also going through what I'm going through and what I went through to have someone to relate to have someone to understand with, to have someone to learn with, to have someone to teach from, and to also help to connect with certain perspectives to where we can all actually make things better for us and make the reality that we live in a better place to live. And I'm doing this in tandem and in correlation with what we need to change this world and the work that needs to be done in order to make it a better existence. So this is my path, and this is my God-given opportunity and gift to be in a position to where I'm able to come and spread awareness, spread knowledge, share information, and be able to get this information out there and start to do that energy work that needs to be done in order to start changing the state of being that we are in, or the state of existence that we're in, rather, through looking at our states of beings. I, on this channel, cover the mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional states of beings specifically, but I do touch on all sorts of topics. And if you have any sorts of questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have any sorts of concerns. I've been getting into it with people on Twitter. Those people on Twitter that disagree with me, I would love to have conversations. I'd love to actually be able to talk about these disagreements and why these people disagree with what I have to say. And I won't go too into it, but people have said things on my Twitter, and basically I've had doctors, other people that possibly make money off big tobacco or make money off vapes or nicotine, and I guess it's hard to see someone that's out there actually advocating against what you're advocating against, but I don't make any judgment on that at the end of the day, because I was there once and I can see that I shouldn't judge someone if they're walking the same path that I once did. And if I can help them, then why not do that? Yet you'll still find people will have their own opinions, and they'll have their own biases, and they don't want that opposite perspective, that opposite thing there. And bottom line is, this journey and all these videos that I've made so far are real, and they're actually there to stand the test of time. And these videos can be watched by anyone, and anyone can learn from this when it comes to as far as so far on my channel, it's any substance abuse, primarily nicotine, and in regards to the pandemic of vaping, the epidemic of vaping. And so the timing of this is perfect. That's another reason why I am on this path and continuing on carrying out these responsibilities, because this is my God-given path, and this is what needs to happen in order to do God's work in this world. So starting off with mentally, let's start off with why can't you quit nicotine mentally? Reasons that I personally couldn't quit nicotine mentally were, well, nicotine cravings, thoughts of relapse as soon as I stopped, mental instability, feeling like I'm mentally gonna lose my mind if I don't have that crutch with me, have that mental crutch. And you start to accept things that you normally wouldn't accept, just because you also are trying to validate that addiction. So basically, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna make this decision because I continuously think about hitting the nicotine, and there you go, you're mentally validating the fact that, okay, I think about this all the time. This is why mentally I'm fixated on this, and why mentally, when you literally look at it, your thoughts are going to tell you, yes, okay, there we go. I'm noticing that I'm mentally using this as a crutch. I'm mentally dependent on this substance, and this goes for any substance as well. But specifically, why can't you quit nicotine? Is because mentally, honestly, you have this mental addiction that is so strong, and your mental state of being, your mind is, now you're creating more and more of you being in that mind state, more and more of you being in that mental state of, okay, I need this to get by no matter what. I need this to get by, no matter if it's nicotine, no matter what it is. But that's why you might have trouble quitting mentally. It's because mentally the patterns and cycles that you've gotten into are very much in rhythm. You're very much in rhythm with those cycles, so it's much easier for you to continue on smoking the vape, continue on smoking nicotine, rather than, okay, let me take a break, let's at least implement some moderation here. I'm going to think about a plan of how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to change my behavior to where it's not toxic towards yourself, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to leave it, I'm not going to have it with me for this amount of time. I know I'm going to go without it, and that's where you're going to start to be able to build that mental freedom, that mental detachment from the substance, and hopefully you'll be able to, from there, start to realize that what you do want for yourself, and then you'll constantly be flooding the mental state of being with these thoughts of, you're doing this for these specific reasons, why are you doing it, and continuously remind yourself, why have you chosen to do this? What made you come to this decision? And that's, you want to figure out, where did it start, right? Mentally, why did you decide to do this? And so take that starting point and realize that can tell you how you should go about the situation from there. And like I said, you can start to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go without it for this amount of time. Okay, I'm going to go without it for this amount of time. You know, whatever that may be, you're going to mentally be able to agree with that thought and mentally be at ease, mentally be stable enough to not have crazy withdrawal symptoms, not have as much irritability or temptations or whatnot, and by making sure that that's the right decision for you. And that goes back to having your thoughts and consecutively supporting the thoughts that are supporting where you want to move forward, not the ones that are telling you, okay, continue to do this, continue to stay stuck in this and stagnant in this. mental pattern of addiction and this mental psychosis of this mental inability to move on from things just out of regards to addiction and out of regards to accepting this in your life. So that's why it may be hard to quit nicotine when it comes to mentally. It just has a lot of impact on the mind, and not only that, but physically in this area, the nicotine, it makes you lightheaded every time you hit it. Well, at least if you're lucky enough to get a buzz. If you don't have that high of a tolerance, you will pretty much get that lightheaded feeling. And so that's another way for sure. And that's more having to do with physically, but mentally, I think a lot of times people that, I don't really separate these states of beings, and I'm like, where I'm as, oh, this is how I'm in my mental state of being right now. I'm in my physical state of being, emotional state of being, spiritual state of being. No, I realize that we exist in all dimensions at all times at once, and multiple dimensions all at once. And I'm realizing that it's just a lot easier for me to break it down this way for people to understand. So someone that doesn't understand that, they might tie that into, that's mentally relieving my stress. Just that feeling of getting that hit of dopamine that goes up here and is released in here. So let's talk about physically. Why can't you quit nicotine physically? That's because, as you know, it's a challenge. I talked about it on my channel before. It's not going to be easy physically, and it's an addictive substance, and it's addictive habit. And if you're more likely to fall into a cycle of addiction like that, then that might be why physically you can't quit nicotine, because you're just so used to supplying the body with that nicotine that you've really looked at it as breathing is literally as you wouldn't want to breathe if you didn't have nicotine in that breath. And that's what it becomes, because not half your breaths are nicotine. Let's not say that half of them are, but there's a percentage of your breaths that you're taking in of air that you're breathing in this world and on this planet and from the atmosphere. There's a percentage of those breaths that, even though you can't see it, but just imagine you have a health bar, or you have a counter in that health bar, and in that health menu of self, you can go in there and you can tab over and you can click configuration, or you can click information, detailed information, and you come to a screen that says, okay, out of 2 million breaths, that's a lot, but let's say, no, that's probably a good amount, honestly. Out of 2 million breaths the last 2 years, around 1.2 million of those were real breaths. But let's see, I said 2 million. About 1.2 of those were that. So I'm saying 800,000 of those breaths were the breaths that had the nicotine in it. And that, you just gotta look at it like everything. How's that gonna play a toll on your body? That compound effect will just make that addiction stronger and stronger, and the health repercussions from the use are gonna be reinforcing that, and you're not gonna want to find out what's on the other side of not using this substance. What is it going to be like without it? Because you just know that after all that time, you were actually breathing in air, oxygen, plus whatever is in your vape, plus whatever you're doing, plus that. So just look at it like that. That's really what you got to do physically, and realize that just because I see it in my reality, it's something that we're experiencing in today's times as a highly popular activity, as a highly popular behavior. I'm saying regardless of that, you got to think about yourself. You got to think about your health. and think about, do I want this for me? Is this really what I want for my reality when it comes to my physical state of being and taking care of the body that I live in? Or are you going to start to make those decisions to where you're not going to give in to your desires as easily, and knowing more how you're doing this thing and be able to view it for, do I want to continue this, or do I want to not do this, or do I want to implement moderation? What do I want to do physically in order to be able to exist physically in the state of being as best as possible? So physically, because we are living in the reality that we're in right now, physically, like I said, it's a highly acceptable, not that it's highly acceptable, but there's agendas of it being highly acceptable. There's agendas of going against vaping, going against nicotine. But I'm telling that when it comes to drug use in general, discretion, self-discretion each time, because you can't necessarily tell someone what exactly they should do, because anyone's going to interpret the world through their own reality, right? That person's perspective is their reality. And in order to physically be pure, or physically, like I said, exist physically as well as you can, or as well as you possibly want to, or self-improve in any way, then you have to look at your physical actions, and are you doing the right things necessarily? Or are you falling towards addictive patterns or addictive substances for relief, or for just the time being, because you're passing time, you're going out and you're drinking and you're having a smoke, and that's the only reason why you're doing it. Well, you come to realize after those physical activities that aren't really meaning much, you realize that didn't have much purpose, that didn't really have much meaning at all. And what did you really get out of that? Having fun. You really didn't really get much out of that. Whereas if you were focused on your purpose, you would have something to look for and something to show for, rather than being a damaged person, being a damaged individual, having baggage, having defects, or inabilities in any state of being, or inabilities in any sort of way. How does it look on someone who has gone that long disregarding their physical well-being, and now they're starting to, not only just whatever they would have gone through without the addiction, now they're starting to reap the health effects and, whatever they're doing to that physical state of being, and they're starting to see, oh, maybe that wasn't the right decision after all. Maybe I really should have taken a moment to look at my actions and run it by myself one more time. Think about that. Let me get a second opinion on that. Should I really be doing this? And turns out you really should be doing that in moderation. You should not be super addicted to it, because physically you're going to just accept it into your reality once you become so used to using the substance physically. It becomes a thing where even if you try to go without it, you're physically bound to that for a certain amount of time. Either you think biologically, chemically, psychologically, subconsciously, and you're gonna have to get through that. You're gonna have to actually purge that and detach fully physically. And I'm telling you right now, this is the 11-month and 8-day check-in with No Nicotine for me. And guys, I was thinking about this a couple hours ago, and there's not one day that goes by where I don't ponder about the past. I don't, not necessarily, but that's more of a phrase. So all the time I'm reminded of where I came from, and that just helps me to be a little bit stronger. along with the whole journey that helps me to be a little bit stronger. And I'm telling you guys right now, someone that's looking to get on this journey, someone that's looking to self-improve, you know it's not hard, or you know it's not easy. It's a challenge, but you can make it harder on yourself if you're not exactly supporting yourself. You're not exactly being in your power when it comes to everything that you have power over. And I don't know how I knew it was going to be an ad, but that's not the point. Regardless of you know, yeah, like I said, the physical actions that we partake in, let's look at it and see, is this right for us? Is this something that we need to continue doing, continue having in our physical state of being? And if you're just doing it because, oh, it's for the time being, I'm just doing this to get by, yeah, nicotine will do that for you. So I can see why physically you're addicted to that nicotine, because, well, it's a highly addictive substance. You know, I already said that, but it can be stressed as much as possible. And I'm telling you, the journey is great. It gives you the power where you feel is, okay, maybe it's not about what I'm doing, but implementing that moderation and focusing on how I'm going about that action, how you're doing it, is much more important. And I for sure, the journey I've been on for the past 11 months and 8 days as it is right now, as of currently, I've come to realize that so much more, and I'm going to continue to grow and continue to talk about this and continue to spread the awareness so that more and more people can continue to wake up. More and more people can continue to be pure in terms of what they want for themselves. Be absolutely the best version, a better version of themselves, knowing that there's other things that we need to do in order to make this a better reality for us to exist in. And of course, you can say, oh, I want to stay the way it is. Nothing needs to be changed. I'm ignorant. I like my reality. I feel good all the time. Well, if you guys see my videos, I would get aggravated and stuff like that even when I was and amped up and stuff like that, and ramped up and stuff like that, even when I was addicted to nicotine. So just being off of it has helped me learn and helped me grow and realize that regardless of that, I'm still going to be responsible for me, and I have to do that, and I have to be a strong version of myself no matter what. But yeah, that's why physically it can be an addictive thing. And everyone knows it's not good for you physically, so I think it can make you have negative actions, toxic actions, because, well, you're okay with that, and what else are you okay with that goes against yourself? So that's why you might not be able to quit nicotine when it comes to physically, simply too dependent on it, simply you started when you were young, it had an impression on you. You know, I started when I was young, probably like, 15, 16, and that's fairly young, not as young as some people are today, which is really strange and displeasing to me, but that's just more motivation for me to get on my path. That's just more motivation for me to keep spreading the awareness. That's more motivation for me to be out here putting in the work and helping people realize that that's not right. And so yeah, if you're on it for a long time, it's gonna be harder to quit. That's just kind of how it goes. And now let's get into emotionally. Why can't you quit nicotine? Oh, and let's actually go back to physical real quick. Physically, like I said, if it's something that you're just doing for now, just to get by and because other people around you are doing it, don't do that just because it looks like if other people around you are lessening the burden. I did that for a long time, and all that did was put me in a sense of false comfort, a sense of false reality where it came to that where physical circumstances changed, times moved on, people moved on from that, and yeah, that addiction still stayed with me, but all that other things that I did with other people and that burden, none of that really ever ended up mattering because you still had to carry that for yourself. It wasn't, now that you're not around these people, or if you still are, you have to realize, don't feel as if you feel bad, you feel jealous, you feel like you're missing out. No, you went through that already and you know what it is for and you know what it's all about. So if you need to do something to get your life in order now and then come back to it later if you can, then change it up in that way and learn how to do it in better ways and more ways that are not damaging towards yourself. Okay, so let's talk about emotionally. So why can't you quit nicotine emotionally? Emotionally, nicotine, when I was personally using nicotine, it made me feel like I was on an all-time high, and it was something that I could carry with me anytime. It almost felt like I could get, I don't know, maybe some sort of a confidence boost from it, self-esteem from it, and that was because the release of dopamine, so it really puts you in a state of, I want to say, it might be forced euphoria, euphoric nonetheless, but I feel as if it lets you feel too good, and this is a trap that a lot of people get into, and because simply emotionally nicotine is something that is very, very pleasing, something that masks all other emotion because you get such a strong chemical reaction and biological reaction in the brain and in the body that controls how your mind, and then therefore we'll get into spiritual later, but then therefore that has to do with the spiritual state of being as well and how these all states of beings are related to each other. But when we talk about why it's so addictive, why it can be hard to quit nicotine emotionally or quit a substance emotionally, is because your emotional state of being is now getting fulfillment, feeling emotions, either solely through your addiction and solely through your actions, or a mixture of primarily solely through your actions, some other things in your life that are good for you, or some other things that are healthy behaviors or healthy scenarios or healthy actions or healthy situations. But other than that, that nicotine, as long as you are not emotionally in good emotions, then it can have an opportunity to have you in an emotional trap and have you only depending on that nicotine. And also, if you don't have that nicotine, like I said, if it's a mix of, also nicotine, but then also the healthy balance, well, you better make sure that when you don't have that nicotine, what's going to happen then? Are you going to become depressed? Emotionally, I feel as if the pure sadness or just lowerment of emotions not expressed because you're so emotionally dependent on nicotine, once you quit, you don't have the emotional, those lights aren't lighting up inside of you. You're not feeling that again. So emotionally,